So if you're frustrated with your level of psychic connection or the speed of your own development, you're not alone. That's the most asked question that I get from clients and from students, and I get it. You know, we want to be more tuned in. We want to be able to increase our connection and access this seemingly hidden world of knowledge and information. Now, why we want that is different for many people. Maybe you want to work as a professional psychic or medium. Perhaps you want to create a more accurate connection with spirit. Or you could just want to live a more intuitively guided life, and all are worthy reasons. But how do you improve? So hi, I'm Dawn, and I've been helping people to develop their psychic and mediumship abilities for about 2 decades now. And if you're interested in my journey into mediumship, I'm going to link that video below. But for today, I'm going to share with you my 5 top tips. Now, these are ways that I've found critical in my own development, and they're things that I still do to keep myself honed to this day. So tip number 1, practice regularly. Now, if you wanted to run a marathon, you'd have to build up your strength and your stamina. You couldn't expect to go from couch potato to an athlete overnight, right? So it's exactly the same with building your psychic muscles. You must practice. Now, we're all psychic to some degree. Some people are clearer and more open channels than others, and some just need to work a bit harder to get clear. Wherever you fall in that spectrum, you still have to establish a regular practice in order to develop and to build and hone your abilities. Now, I know that time's precious and you've got 1,000,001 things to do, but practice really is the key to your psychic development. You learn so much about how you receive sixth sense information. You build up your confidence in what you're receiving, and you get to understand what you're getting and what it's telling you much more clearly. And I promise you it's worth the investment in time. So what does practice look like? Well, I'd highly recommend that you do some focus work daily. And so by focused, I'm not suggesting that you need to invest a couple of hours every day. You could, but it's unlikely. It could be 10 or 20 minutes a day. But the point is that it's regular. You build up that practice, you build that muscle up. It becomes part of your day and it becomes more natural to you. So I found that playing in my day while I was doing routine tasks really helped. So things like seeing if I could anticipate the colour of the next car in the line of traffic while I was driving to and from work, how many pieces of mail is going to be in the mailbox, who's going to call, the list is endless. And it might feel like guessing at first, and it is exactly that, but the more that you do it, the more that you sharpen and you open your intuition. Now, I'd also add into my routine something a bit longer and a bit more focused. So if you go back to our marathon runner analogy, short jogs daily won't build up stamina or technique. So maybe add in a weekly visit to a development circle, or if you're working solo, spend an hour or two once a week trying out different psychic exercises. So like psychometry, scrying, card reading. I have videos on those and I will link them below if you're not sure how to do any of those. And if you have a few friends who are interested in developing their psychic abilities as well, maybe start a circle for yourself. And I've also got a video on that to help you get started. Now, tip number 2 is meditation. I can't stress enough how important meditation is in your own development. It really was a game changer for me, and I still meditate to this day. Now, if I do fall out of the practice, I feel it very quickly. So I've learned to prioritize this time over other things. Now, I know that meditation is difficult for lots of people. I hear that over and over again. Don't beat yourself up. Our brains really have been trained to be busy. We've learned to move quickly, be busy, get things done. But the great news is that you can train your brain the opposite way as well. We just have to train it away from go, go, go and train it to let go. Now, when it comes to accessing psychic information, we want to get to the void, the brain state, the mind state of nothingness. It's a bit like when we're daydreaming. We focus off into a space in that liminal state between alert and asleep. We literally need to give our mind space and meditation helps us to do that. Now, there are many different forms of meditation. Lots of us start with guided meditations, which is fine. They do have a place for sure, but in my opinion and with personal experience, meditations that allow us to quiet our mind and get into that void place is the absolute best, and that's what we want to shoot for. So I'm going to suggest you put away your guided meditations, which keeps our brain busy, and we start to build up our ability to let our mind go blank. Now, it takes practice, and to be honest, there are some days that I find it impossible to do that even now, but don't give up. Now, when I first sat in circle, we would sit in meditation for about 30 minutes, and honestly it felt like 3 hours. I hated it. There was no guiding words, no music. It really was just sitting, and at the start, that's really all I was doing. I was sitting and thinking. I wasn't meditating at all. It was torturous.
It's a waste of time. I don't remember anything. Do you?
No. I got nothing.
But over time it got easier. Now, ways in which I found have helped me to develop my brain state is focusing on my breath. Now, if you practice Reiki, you may have been introduced to something called Gasho. Now, I was taught to hold my hands in prayer position like this, with my fingertips just underneath my nose, and concentrating on the sensations of the breath as it flows over my skin. Now, it's super relaxing, and it allows me to let go because I'm focusing my mind on a sensation and I'm letting my busy mind relax. So give it a go and see how it works for you. Another favourite of mine is candle gazing. So literally just using the candle and gazing at it, letting my eyes relax and go a little bit fuzzy. And if I need to close my eyes and maintain the flame in my mind, I'll do that. And when I lose that vision, I open up my eyes again and return the gaze to the candle. So there are a couple of examples of how I get to that void place, but my advice is find something that works for you. Find something that allows you to let go of thought and practice it regularly. Now, tip number 3 is opening up and closing down. Now, this probably is one of the most important practices to have in place, particularly if you're working as a psychic or a medium, or if you're struggling to block out psychic information that's coming to you without your intention for that to be. Now, this is different than protection, and I would say protection is really critical, and I do have a video for that. But this is a critical, game-changing activity to get into the habit of. So opening up is designed to raise your vibration. Now, if we think about spiritual and sixth sense information, we can think about it in terms of having a different vibrational quality from our physical body and our human thoughts. Because anything that's focused on our earthly consideration is denser, where non-physical information is lighter. The frequency is different. And so when we're trying to download this type of information, we've got to have our vibration and our frequency tuned in. Otherwise, we're not going to get a clear signal and connection. It's just like a radio frequency. We've got to tune in to the right station to listen, because the goal is to match the frequency as best we can. So really, we've got to go up. Now, before I do any focused intuitive work, I have a process of opening up. I spend a few minutes grounding first and relaxing, quietening my mind, trying to get into that void space before I visualize myself ascending. Now, I have a few ways of doing this. One way is to work through my chakras from the root to crown, and I bring white light through each one of them with the intention of opening them up and clearing any accumulated energetic clutter. And when I get to the crown, the light bursts out the top of my head and I see and feel a strong connection to the universal mind. Now, that process shouldn't be rushed. It normally takes 7 to 10 minutes for me to do that. Now, another method that I use to go up is to visualize myself walking up a long set of ancient steps. Now, when I start my ascent, I can't see the top. It's shrouded in clouds. It's that high up. And as I ascend, I set my intention to and I ask my guides to be present and I open my heart. And when I get to the top, I see my guides and I sit down to work with them. Now, recently, one of my mentors shared an approach that he uses. He visualizes going up in an elevator or a lift, which is another good process as well. Now, the common feature with all of these visualization is really this idea of going upwards with the intention as we ascend of us getting lighter and less dense with a higher vibration. We really want our connection to the universal mind to be secure, and we want to be open to it. And it's from this place of openness that we can access spiritual, sixth sense information or even spirit communication more easily. Now, equally important is that we return our vibration to normal once we've finished working. It is easy to do by just retracing our steps downwards, setting our intention to bring our vibration back into our normal frequency range and closing down the connection to universal mind. Now, this really is such an important part of being intuitive because we don't want to be fully open all of the time. It can be exhausting, it can be distracting, and in some circumstances, it can be risky to be open 24/7. Now, as alluring as it is to be picking up on spirit communication and messages and downloads all of the time, we simply cannot be in that state constantly and stay well. We're having a physical incarnation. We've got to remember that. Believe me when I say we don't want to be fully open all of the time. We have to close shop. Now, don't get me wrong, when I say closed, I don't mean closed off to intuitive information. We still want to receive those intuitive messages and nudges from the universal mind. But what I mean is that we don't want to be wide open. And sometimes, depending on what I'm doing and where I am, I actually do want to be more closed down than other times. So an example of that is, let's say I'm in a hospital. Now, I don't want to be open even for a little bit. I've found environments like that really overwhelming to be in without being really fully closed down as much as I can. So please, please, please remember to close down after working. I also cut psychic connection by just running my hands up and down the front of my body, holding the intention for that disconnection to happen. Now, tip number 4 is to reduce resistance. Now, I found some of the culprits to the amount of resistance that I find myself holding in my energy body. And resistance really doesn't help with the connection that I have with spirit. So the first culprit is ego. So needing to be right, feeling better than other people, special, being a know-it-all. So this work has no place for ego, and really need to work hard to let go of that as much as possible. And one of the best ways that I found to do this, alongside of course is ongoing shadow work, which never gets done, is to let go of the outcome. I try to come to my psychic and my mediumship work with this sense of curiosity. I'm open to the information without evaluating. I'm just allowing it to flow through me, no matter how silly it might seem. And really, it doesn't matter if it makes sense or not, and it doesn't matter if I'm right or wrong. Another culprit is fear. Now, being fearful of opening up and receiving information really won't serve you. It creates a resistance and it closes you off. Now, if you can't get past being fearful, you'll really need to determine what you're fearful of and maybe try and work through that. And I would recommend a mentor or a coach to work with if this is something that you are struggling with, because sometimes when you're developing on your own, it can be a little bit of a scary place, and having a knowledgeable person to help you, I think that's critical in our development. And the final culprit is trying too hard. And I think this is connected to ego in that we want to be right and we want to be the best that we can, and we want to serve the people that we're sharing the information with, but honestly it gets in the way of being a clear and open channel. So hold it as lightly as you can. Maybe even have some fun with it and play as much as you can. Now, you'll find that sometimes your development seems to hit a plateau. And what I mean by this is that weeks can go by and you're on this sharp incline with your development. You know, you're getting more, you're switched on, you're having stronger connections, and you're more successful with the work that you're doing. And then you'll hit this plateau. You won't see any discernible difference in your abilities, and it feels like you're treading water, or even worse, you're not getting stronger, you're going backwards. And this can rock our confidence, and it can lead us to trying too hard. So just accept this as the way it goes. In fact, I think that these plateaus are really, really important for us so that we get to integrate and normalize what we're learning. So embrace these times. Your abilities will come back if you keep practicing, so keep on moving forwards. I'd also recommend working on yourself energetically to reduce resistance. So whether this is a regular energy session with a practitioner, whether it's energy clearing meditations, yoga, those types of things, add this into your practice as well. It's so helpful and a good investment in you. And finally, tip number 5, well, it's journaling. Now, I honestly didn't see the benefit of journaling when I was first introduced as a concept for me by a mentor, and this was at the start of my journey. It felt like an added burden to my time, and I really resisted it as much as I could. But I give it a go and I stuck with it, and after a while I found that it was an invaluable practice. So I would journal my development sessions, I'd journal any psychic activities I was practicing, I would journal any experiences I was having, and it really helped me to be reflective, but also to understand my preferences, how information was coming to me, what was working and what wasn't working, and what was the meaning behind the images and symbols that I was getting. And it built my confidence at no end. So I invite you to get a nice notebook or even a journal and to regularly journal your psychic development journey. And I had to take that a couple of times because that was a tongue twister. So I hope that these tips work as well for you as they did for me and continue to work for me and the many students that I've supported in their development thus far. Remember to keep practicing and you'll see incremental increases in your abilities. Now, if you're not sure how you receive psychic information, do check out my video here. Ta-ta for now.